Hi, this is DJ Zinte and you're watching Joburg Today.
As we all gear up for the new year, we thought it'd be valuable to speak to Bronwyn Williams from Flux about exactly which lifestyle trends we should look out for.
I suppose there's two really big ones that we can take a couple of minutes to get into. The first one would be there's a resurgence of the quest for meaning in our lives. So we're seeing a whole lot of trends towards new versions of spirituality, whether that's sort of going back to the church or the more traditional religions, or creating new religions, or delving into other sorts of spirituality, whether that's crystals or rocks or anything like that. So we really have found that over the course of a pandemic, which obviously puts us into touch with our own mortality, this makes a lot of sense. The people are looking for meaning beyond the here and now. So that's on the one side. The other trend is quite different. And this is really us starting to consider conspicuous consumption and status in different ways. And as such, I'm sure many of your viewers and listeners would be very familiar with the terms like metaverse and Web3 that are being bandied about, but that's what it really brings us to. So this idea of creating status and personal identity through virtual garments and items that allow us to still sort of mark our position in society, but in ways that A, cost a bit less, and B, have less of an impact on our planet. Because of course, climate consciousness is one of those mega trends that we are going to be hearing all the time over the next few years.
What exactly is influencing these trends right now?
Yeah, so as I said, the first one is really we've had a lot of time to think about our lives, what matters to us over the course of being put into lockdowns and like contending with the very real threat and losing loved ones on things like a pandemic, which is where the sort of quest for meaning does make a lot of sense. But on the other side, we've also had shrunk lives to a large extent. So not only have we been locked down into small, confined sort of rooms and spaces, also, a lot of us are dealing with things like shrinkflation and skimflation and the fact that our money is worth less than it was when we went into the pandemic, and also a lot of us have less of it. So we're also looking for ways to do more with less. And that's where the metaverse allows us to have a sort of cheap imitation of reality that's more accessible to those of us that might have lost the ability to achieve that status or do those things in the real world.
Bronwyn, in your opinion, do people value the concept of a lifestyle?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm sure there's another term that maybe you're familiar with or not that is also rising to prominence, which is slightly ironic, and that's the term of mimesis. In other words, the way that you and I as human beings, we kind of programmed to want not what each other has so much as to want what each other wants. In other words, a lot of our lifestyle choices are driven by this sort of desire to fit in and also to aspire to sort of find a place on the social ladder. That's a perhaps a less flattering sort of look at humanity, which is why I like to balance the sort of more mimetic and superficial trends with the fact that a lot of us really are looking for real meaning right now.
And I mean, just lastly from my side, the concept of live, work and play, which is, we do know that that's the mantra for Johannesburg. In terms of working from home, would you consider that as a lifestyle?
Oh, absolutely. That motto of live, work, play is something that people have been thinking about too. Again, this comes back to the concept of meaning. What actually matters in your life? Is it just going to work and just buying consumer goods that end up in a landfill? Or is meaning more to do with, say, building a family or investing in learning something or pursuing spiritual goals? Which means that we are reconsidering our work-life balance. And it makes a lot of sense then that people are rethinking about how they're going to work in the future. Not just the jobs they're going to do, but also where they're going to work and how long they're going to work. Even in our own very small business, we actually switched to a 4-day work week last year because we have to sort of track the trends that we're talking about. And also we realized that you do need that balance, and quite often giving a bit of pause and having a bit of balance between play and work actually makes you better and more focused in the tasks that you're actually doing. Of course, I'm very cognizant of the fact that not everyone has that sort of a luxury, but it is indicative of the fact that we're by no means the first business to institute these policies. These are global trends as humanity at large is really reconsidering what meaning and what matters going forward, and also moving into this shift away from overconsumption and overabundance towards the politics of scarcity, which brings me back more again to that whole sort of virtual trend that we are seeing, because we are understanding that we have real constraints in terms of the amount of time we have in a day and also in terms of the amount of the money that we have. So this concept of doing more with less, but doing things better, does make quite a lot of sense too.